Greetings, this is Peter Piper NYC. The title of this video is Ham and Time, not the ham for eating. I'm talking about a different kind of ham, amateur radio, also known as ham radio. Stay with me. This will all make sense in a moment. It has to do with piping, one of our YTPC members, and some facts that I know you will find interesting. Don't miss the connections here. I know you'll find them extremely interesting. Have a smoke and take a listen. Ham radio consists of primarily voice communication and/or Morse code. I'm going to focus on code and how it relates to the connections in our story. It all started with Saltwater Piper's response to Paladin Piper, which reignited my interest in ham radio. I was a licensed ham radio operator since 1989. I dug out some of my old ham radio gear, and I also found my ARRL membership card, which I noticed had expired in 2011. I then checked online for the status of my ham license. Yes, it had also expired. I'm going to have to do some work to get relicensed. By the way, I'll have some bonus footage at the end. Now let's get on with the story. Watch this snippet from a U.S. Army training video, and then we'll connect it to a chilling part of the story.
The pattern of dits and das and spaces gives a very special sound to each of the 36 characters in our code. And you cannot send that sound simply by counting out the dits and das and letting the spaces between them stretch out while you count. Are you wondering if proper spacing is really so important? Or is it no more than an extra refinement, the nice thing to do, like neat handwriting? If you think so, you're wrong, and I'll show you why. As you see, this word consists of a dit, a da, two dits, three das, a dit, and two more das. The operator will send these elements again. Same number of dits, same number of das, in exactly the same order. But this time he will change the spacing a little. Dit for dit and da for da, they match. Only the spacing makes the difference between one word and the other. Those planes being described, are they merely flying low? Or are they enemy?
You may know where I'm going with this. However, this is not about the Titanic. The radio parts of the Titanic story is an important part of our story. The RMS Titanic set sail in 1912. On board was the latest in communication technology, the wireless telegraph. In the last hours after Titanic hit an iceberg, radio messages sent from the sinking ship summoned a rescue vessel that saved 700 people, but also created confusion and may have cost the lives of many more. Titanic was outfitted with a radio room and a Marconi leased telegraph machine. Two young Marconi-employed operators were constantly occupied, sending personal Morse code Marconigrams, as they were called, on behalf of Titanic's first-class passengers 24 hours a day. When a nearby vessel, the SS Californian, telegraphed that it was already surrounded by ice, telegraph operator Phillips responded, quote, "Shut up, I'm busy." Once Titanic hit the iceberg, however, Phillips' tone shifted, and he used the Marconi distress signal CQD. Just as an FYI, the Californian never received the Titanic distress signal. The SS Californian radio operator went to bed after he received the insulting "shut up" comment. Maritime vessels had already been calling for help using wireless since 1899. However, international standardized distress calls had not been established. In 1904, Marconi operators adopted a general call sign commonly used by British telegraphers, CQ, CQ, in other words, seek, S-E-E-K-Y-R-U, plus D for distress, in other words, CQD. In 1912, when Titanic sailed, there was another competing distress signal on the scene. The meaning of SOS is often thought to be an acronym for Save Our Ship or Save Our Souls, but the letters don't actually stand for anything. It's actually an adaptation of a 1905 German radio call. The SOS signal consists of 3 dots, 3 dashes, and another 3 dots. Simple to tap out in Morse code during an emergency, and easy to understand, even in poor conditions. SOS remained the international distress call until 1999, when large ships replaced Morse code in favor of the satellite-based Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, GMDSS. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video so far. You may want to stick around till the end, because I think there's some pretty cool stuff that you might want to see. Meanwhile, I am smoking early morning pipe, even though it's pretty late. And I'm smoking it in my Castello Forte, and I'm a real sucker for the Shape 55, I must say. In any event, I want to connect all of the things that we've been talking about. I actually made a couple of notes because there's so many connections between ham radio and the pipe community and pipe smoking. For example, we pick a pipe, we pick the style, pick the shape, and so on. Well, if you're sending Morse code, you're going to pick the keyer, you're going to pick one of the variations of that, and there's that whole combination. The other thing is that smoking a pipe, what do you need? You need to have a cadence for puffing the pipe and keeping it lit and so on, right? Well, it's the same thing with Morse code. If you don't have a proper cadence, you're not going to send a clear signal. So you could say that both require skills, but actually it's also an art at the same time. And the thing of it is that with a pipe, you want to keep it lit. You don't want to get the bowl hot. You don't want to have gurgle and so on. Well, with Morse code, you want to have proper spacing. You want to be able to manage errors effectively. You want to have a good form. So there's a lot of similarities. I got to tell you, there's a lot of similarities. So in any event, like I'm doing now, there's adjustments that you have to do with the pipe. There's adjustments you have to do with the keyer in order to send effective code. And the thing of it is that it's just cool. So I just wanted to kind of take the opportunity to share some of these things with you. And there is a ham community, just like there is a pipe community. And I thought it would be fun just to share the basics of ham radio with you, as well as who knows, maybe you'll become a ham. This is just some of my old equipment here that I rummaged through, and I thought I would just put out for this little chat. And the thing of it is that I've been out of it for so long, and then when Saltwater Piper did his amusing way of answering, in his VR, it got me thinking. I hadn't been in contact with, amateur radio in such a long time. And I found out that, a lot of the stuff's expired and so on. So I'm going to have to do some work to get it back in shape. But in any event, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you stick around for the last little part, the bonus part, which I think is pretty cool. Some very interesting footage. And until next time, this is Peter Piper, wishing you good fortune and great piping.
How to send all letters of the alphabet using one circuit, since it was known that electric current passing through a coil creates a magnetic field pointing through the center of the loop, which could deflect a needle. Their system used a switch which could reverse the direction of current instantly. This would cause the magnetic field around the coil to reverse, and the needle would deflect either to the right or left, depending on the direction of current, right or left deflection. Most importantly, He assigned shorter symbols for the most common letters, such as A was a single right deflection and E was a single left deflection. And he used the longer codes for less common letters, such as K, which was 3 right deflections. And at the time, the speed of transmission was around 9 letters per minute. In the United States, the commercialization of the telegraph was led by a portrait painter named Samuel Morse, who had followed development of the needle telegraphs in Europe. He did away with needles. However, his system was greatly simplified after his collaborations with Albert Vail. This led to an iconic piece of user interface, the simple spring-loaded lever, or key, which could be controlled with the tap of a finger. And on the receiving end was a spring-loaded lever that could be pulled and released by a strong electromagnet. To create a difference akin to the left-right deflection, he varied the length of a key press, or the pulse width. The closure of a switch for a very short time was called a dot. And the dot can be thought of as the basic unit of time in Morse code. And the closure of the switch for 3 units of time represented a dash. And the scheme assigned shorter symbol sequences to more probable letters based on the letter frequencies which could be tabulated from books. And after a letter, the system inserts a 3-unit pause. It was the simplicity of this keying system which made it much faster than any of the buttons and cranks employed by the needle telegraphs in Europe. The letter rate jumped to 135 letters per minute. Immediately, this technology was becoming critical to the success of military, newspapers, financial traders, crime fighting. Any business that relied on information now relied on the telegraph and Morse code. By 1900, the prices had dropped to 30 cents per message, as traffic surged to over 63.2 million messages sent that year. As people began using this system, they naturally thought of ways to save money. This led to popular code books that mapped words to common sentences. For example, blade would actually mean, please name and reserve for myself and family the following accommodations.